Hello and welcome back to Chat ENG. I thought it was worth doing another video a day on from the result against Denmark, and not just the result but the performance. Had a bit of a chance to digest the fallout from it today. Understandably, a lot of angry England fans. Exclusively negative reaction, as you would expect, to such a poor performance, and most of the blame being laid at the door of the manager. For me, it's not just that Southgate is being pragmatic. He's always been pragmatic, and we've done really well in the last three tournaments prior to this one with him being pragmatic. Now, you could say maybe we would have done better if he wasn't. I don't know. We've reached the semi-final of a World Cup, final of a Euros, quarter-finals of a World Cup, and were, to my mind, robbed by a poor officiating against France, playing the way that Southgate plays. We've never blown teams away. We've never smashed teams, with the exception of, I think, 3-0 against Senegal in the World Cup and 4-0 away in the Ukraine in the Euros. And then pub teams that we've played, no disrespect, like Peru and Iran. Yeah, fair enough. But England under Southgate don't go smashing teams. So the fact that he's been pragmatic and he's played a certain way doesn't massively bother me, because he's been relatively successful with it. But the concern for me is, I mean, last night we couldn't make 5-yard passes. Something doesn't feel right. It's like there's a for me anyway. There's a feeling around the camp that just doesn't feel right. It feels like something's wrong in there. Maybe it's reached its natural conclusion with Southgate, and maybe it had after the World Cup, and maybe the players have had enough of him. It's hard to know, isn't it? But these players, a lot of them, have done very well for him previously, and it just doesn't look quite the same unit as it did before. And we can disagree with the way he's done it previously and say he should have been more attacking in other tournaments, and maybe we would have won them had he been more attacking. But to get to a certain level of tournaments, a lot of these same players have followed his instructions really well and done what they needed to do to get to the latter stages of competitions, and this just doesn't look the same. I try and caveat that with more positive thoughts, like, well, there's lots of teams that don't start tournaments well and go on and win it. There's Portugal in 2016 finished third in the group and won it in the end. It's not what you do in the group; it's what you do in the latter stages. We, like I said last night, we always have at least one game in the group, and I said this before the tournament. At least one game in the group where we're absolutely terrible, like awful, like we were last night. And yeah, all that's true, but as I say, it's a feeling. This feels like, I'm trying to think of an example, like 2010 World Cup with Capello, where we were so bad in the group but got away with it unbeaten in the group, got to the knockout stage, played Germany, and Germany beat us 4-1. You can talk about the Lampard goal was over the line. Yeah, it was. But we were just crap that whole tournament. 2006, Sven-Goran Eriksson's last tournament. Rubbish. Played awful all the way through the group, but got through with 7 points. Played Ecuador, scraped past them in the knockout round. Played Portugal and got knocked out in the quarters. But we're never going to win that tournament, because you could just tell the spirit wasn't there, the camaraderie wasn't there, the togetherness wasn't there. That catalyst, that trigger, that pop game wasn't there. We never once played well in that tournament, and it looks like that here. Jesus, we've got to beat Slovenia. I'm saying that, I don't know, but we've got to. We could even blag our way to the quarterfinals, but at the way we're playing, actually, I don't think we will. I don't think we'll get to the quarterfinals. I can see us going out in really embarrassing circumstances, whoever we get in the next round, if we are confirmed to go through. You'd hope that kind of. I think this is going to be Southgate's last tournament, whatever. If he won it, he goes off in a blaze of glory. If he doesn't, I said before the tournament, if we get to the semis or even the quarters, if we're involved in it towards the latter stages, and you think, right, we've had a decent crack at it, he goes with his head held high. I think he's going whatever. If he absolutely nosedives like it looks like it's face plants, if he's doing like he's doing at the moment, then he's going to go for different reasons. But 4 tournaments is a lot in international football for a manager to be there. Sven had 3, and I think that felt like after the 3rd one, it's like, yeah, it's time for him to move on now. So I just, the results aren't a problem. Beat Serbia, draw against Denmark is exactly what I thought was going to happen. It's the performances and it's the mood around it. It doesn't, as I say, it doesn't feel right. It feels like Southgate's caught between what he thinks is the right way to play, which is very pragmatic and safe and having 2 holding midfield players, and then trying to shoehorn in the amount of really talented players he's got, which isn't in his nature to try and even use talented, expressive players. And you can tell he doesn't really know what to do with them. Now, I'm like a man of conviction, so I'd say to him, do you know what? Fair enough. Play 2 holding midfield players, then pick a squad with 2 holding midfield players in it, if you can find any, and only play one of Bellingham and Foden, and do it the way you want to do it. You're the manager, but he's picked a team that doesn't fit the profile of manager he is. He's picked a squad that doesn't fit the profile. I feel like I keep saying this, but I said before the tournament, he's picked a squad without a defensive midfield player in it. It looks an attacking squad. Yeah, it looks like an attacking squad. He won't use half the players that he's taken that are exciting. So what's the point in picking them? At least be brave and go out on your own terms. We can all disagree with you. We can all think you're wrong and that you should play more attacking players. But you doing it your way, Gareth, if I was addressing you, you've done all right doing it that way. So be a man of conviction. Let's just get into specifics just a little bit around last night. This has just come to me actually, so I'll mention this first. You've got to take a left back to a tournament. You've got Luke Shaw, and I thought, well, maybe he's fitter than we think he is, and that's why he's taking him, and he's going to play after 2 group games, maybe even, let's say, the 3rd game, and maybe he will play the next time out. But given that he's not played any minutes, given that he's still been training separate, his fitness levels are clearly nowhere near what they need to be to play. So take Ben Chilwell. I don't know loads about Ben Chilwell, but I know he's a left back who's left-footed, who plays at a decent level, and has never really been bad for England before. He's not brilliant, but take him and take Luke Shaw. You can afford to do that, and don't take one of the centre-backs who you've got no intention of playing. But the problem with the lack of full-backs in general is twofold. One, we've got no natural width on the left. We've got no one who can go on the outside, which means everything comes down the right, as I mentioned last night. With Trippier obviously just doing the best he can, and I like Trippier. I think he's a good player, but there's limitations to him at left back. And 2, if you want some flexibility to change the system, i.e. go to 3 at the back, the perfect 3rd centre back for England would be Kyle Walker. But we've only got him and Trippier who are fit as fullbacks at the tournament. So who's going to play wing back? People are saying Saka. Saka's not a wing back. So he screwed himself over by not picking another fullback, particularly a left back. I mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold last night, and I just want to come back to it. I said he played really poorly. He did. There's mitigation to why it's not worked for Trent Alexander-Arnold, in that he's a player who he's got a great range of passing, particularly kind of 50, 60-yard passes over the top, and potentially unlocking defences. But you have to have runners for him. And Southgate's picked players and either given them instructions or they are just not doing it. Who knows? But no one's running in behind, as I mentioned last night. So what's the point in playing Trent Alexander-Arnold then? He brought Trent Alexander-Arnold off, rightly so in my opinion, and then bought 3 pace merchants on up front who would have benefited from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like, what are you doing? My beef with Trent Alexander-Arnold last night was he couldn't make a 5-yard pass. He wasn't the only one, but he set the tone. In the first few minutes, he gave the ball away inexplicably under no pressure whatsoever 2 or 3 times. And he wasn't the only one, but that set the tone. It's not his fault. He can't decide what Kyle Walker does or what Declan Rice does or all the other players who were giving the ball away left, right and centre. But he gave it away a significant amount of times when there's no pressure on him whatsoever. So it's like, okay, I know that it's frustrating that you can't ping the balls you'd like to play, so therefore just recycle the ball. I just started coaching my son's under-10s team. One of the big things you teach him from a young age is if there's no pass on, just recycle the ball. And it moves me on quite nicely to the comment that Southgate made last night, which I think in hindsight he'll wish he didn't make, because I think this has got Wally with the brolly, the turnip with Graham Taylor written all over it. This is the nail in the coffin potential comment that we have no natural replacement for Calvin Phillips. Like, right. If you said you had no natural replacement for Wayne Rooney, or I'm trying to think of any decent players who played for England over the years. I'll go back to my United hat on. We've got no natural replacement for Roy Keane. Right, fine. You've got no natural replacement for a bang average Premier League football player, which Calvin Phillips is, who's not been relevant to England for the last I don't even know how long. I swear to God I'm not being facetious when I say this. Did Calvin Phillips play in the World Cup? Because I genuinely don't remember. I don't actually remember whether he played all the games in the Euros when we got to the final. And I've got an encyclopedic memory when it comes to England. That's how much of an impact he's had on me as a fan, watching England. And I've got nothing against the guy. If we miss him, there's a big problem. And again, I go back to my comment earlier. Okay, pick him then. He might be injured. Maybe he's injured. But if he's not injured and you think he's so good, you're in charge, you pick him. You might get absolute pelters for picking him, but that's your job. So again, show some conviction, and if you think he's irreplaceable, then bloody pick him. As I say, maybe he's injured or whatever and he can't be picked. I don't know, maybe he's like 5 stone overweight. I know he was overweight at some point last season, but I don't know. This is the thing, he's fallen off the face of a cliff. No one knows what's happening. Was he on loan at West Ham? I don't know. But my argument would be, you've got a kid there in Wharton, who I can't profess to know loads about, but from what I know of him, people are sort of mentioning things like a young Michael Carrick, etc. It's dangerous to do that, but that's the profile of player he is. So, not a destructive holding midfield player, but somebody who can screen the defence, retain the ball, move the ball forward. All the things I think probably England need. He's very young. Don't take him though. If you've got no intention of playing him, don't take him. You're not going to be the manager on this tournament. Why are you asked whether he gets experience of a tournament or not? And being around players. If you're not going to take him, if you're not going to play him, you shouldn't have took him. The next one I know more about, Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo, much to contrary to what a lot of people think, he's not a holding midfield player. That's not his position. But he can play there. And if I say stop pigeonholing players and saying like CDM or CM or CAM with the FIFA generation, let's just look at the qualities the player's got. Kobbie Mainoo's main qualities are he can take the ball in the half turn. His ball retention is phenomenal. He barely ever gives the ball away. He will do a very disciplined job in front of the defence if he has to and if he needs to. He's intelligent. His positional awareness is good. He can break up play. He's strong in the tackle. When he gets it, he can dribble and move the team forward. He can pick a pass. Could you not play him in a deep lying position? And let's see what he can do against Slovenia. I mean, he's no Calvin Phillips, but I'd live with that. And I've said it so many times, but I said before the tournament, he's gone to the tournament without a holding midfield player, without a Calvin Phillips, let's say that type of holding midfield player. Declan Rice isn't a holding midfield player. So people say he wants to play 2 holding midfield players, and including Declan Rice in that conversation. Declan Rice ain't a holding midfield player. He can do it, but that's not getting the best out of him. It looks like someone's twisted his arm behind his back to pick the squad that he's picked, and then he's trying to do everything that he would normally do. That's the disconnect. It's not working. And then I think you put on top of that, maybe the group have just had enough of him. Maybe it's just reached a natural conclusion. I hope so much that I'm wrong, by the way. I hope we get to the semi-finals and I look back at this video and go, thank God I was wrong after the Denmark game. Got that one wrong, didn't I? Nothing would please me more. And I hate to say it, but I'm 95% sure that won't happen. Before the tournament, I said I wanted us to... I didn't think we had much of a chance of winning the tournament. I didn't believe the hype. The hype of this squad is far, far outweighs what it's got in it. I don't think it's littered with world-class players, and there's a lot of talented players, but the whole setup, and what I mean by that is the coaching staff, the manager, the team, the system he's going to play, none of that screams winners at me. Mentality-wise, not good enough, not brave enough to go for it. That comes from the top, understand that. Not for me, and I said that before the tournament. I was flabbergasted that England were favourites, or even second or third favourites. No word of a lie. But what I said is, I want us to be involved in the conversation, in the quarterfinals, let's say, or get to the semi-finals, or even get to a final. That for me would be about right, and I'd be like, cool, we were there to the kind of near the end of the discussion, and we just fell short. That's exactly what I would expect from this team if they push their potential. That's what I think their potential is. And if it comes together on the night and the likes of Bellingham and Foden do something special or whatever, then maybe we do something crazy and win it. But I think it would be crazy if England won this tournament. And that's not in hindsight, that's before the tournament. But my concern is we're not even going to do the watered down version of what everyone believes we can do. We're not even going to get... I don't think we'll get to the quarterfinals. So I don't think my reaction last night wasn't measured, to be honest. I think it was very measured, but you have time after a whole day to kind of think about it in a slightly different way, and I just wanted to put another video out there. And I will do a preview of the Slovenia game early next week. Obviously we play on Tuesday, and a lot needs to change. Stuff I said last night, stuff I've said in this video, I don't think it will. I've been ending the videos with "It's coming home." I kind of feel like a hypocrite, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's coming home. Is it? Not, is it?